So before I start the video and show you guys what we're doing today, I just wanted to let you guys see where I got this recipe. So this is a family recipe. I've adapted it a little bit, but this is one of the coolest things that my mom ever did for me. She wrote down all of our family recipes in this book. I'll show you. So it comes with blank pages like this. I'm sure you can find these all over the place. And then she just wrote in their different sections. So she just wrote in like a bunch of the recipes that I grew up with, and this is actually where I'm gonna do the kimchi recipe from. So I wanted to show you guys that. This one's a little dirty because I use it on a pretty regular basis. This is the one I started. I just picked up this book at Barnes & Noble, and it has blank pages. So what I did is I started in the front of the book, and then in the very back, what I did is I started writing the page number and what the recipe was. So I actually have number 1 like at the bottom for some reason. I'm working my way up with the numbers. So this is what I have our family recipes in, the ones that I make that are different than what my mom has passed down, because I want to give this to my kids when they leave the house, or when I pass away, they'll have this book with all of my recipes in it that I used when they were growing up. So let's get started, and I'll show you guys the recipe that we're doing and how I make my kimchi. Okay guys, so here is the Napa cabbage, all chopped up in this bowl. Doesn't have to be uniform sizes. I just kind of chop it up roughly, and into this we're going to add some salt. Now I have this pink Himalayan salt that I use. This is just about 2 tablespoons. So if you've watched my videos before, you know I'm not super great at exact measurements. So you just need about 2 to 3 tablespoons of salt. You don't have to have Himalayan salt. It can be just regular table salt will work. And I had a really big cabbage, so this is more like 3 in this little bowl. So I'm just gonna sprinkle it over the top. And now what you wanna do is you wanna just kind of distribute the salt a little bit. And you're gonna let this wilt for a while. That's part of what the salt does. I mean, you leave the salt in for flavor and everything, but this is going to help this Napa cabbage to start releasing its water content and start wilting. So during that process, I also give it a stir every once in a while to make sure all the leaves are getting in contact with some of that salt and are starting to get wilty. And this takes just about 3 hours or so. We're just gonna leave it on the counter just like this, and you just walk away and do whatever for a few hours. All right, so here we are back at the bowl. And I don't know if you can tell, but this stuff is way floppier and wilted. Now I want to show you, you guys can see all that water that came off? You want to drain that off of your cabbage. So that's going to be your next step, is just separating this cabbage out. You can toss it in like a colander or something like that, and you want to get all this water. It's hard to kind of see in the thing. Anyway, there's a bunch of water because science works, and it pulled all that water off. So anyway, that's your next step, and then after you get your water pulled off, I'll show you what to do next. So here's the bowl of that wilted Napa cabbage that we had from earlier. So now into this bowl, we are going to add some red chili. So this chili I bought on Amazon. I got a huge bag of it for super cheap. You can use just like a crushed red pepper or something like that, whatever works best for you. But this one I got that's specifically a Korean crushed red pepper. So we are going to add 7 teaspoons of this. And you can adjust the amount that you add based on how hot you like it, and just kind of play around with it and see what works best for you. 3, 4. Okay. And if you have a big cabbage, you know, you can adjust accordingly, because some of the cabbages at the store are very small, but then sometimes you get those gigantic ones. Okay, so there is the chili. I also have green onions. This is just one bunch of green onions that I cut. They are a little bit wilted because they've been in my fridge for a long time, but that's perfectly fine because they're going to ferment and wilt with the rest of this. I also have in here 6 cloves. Actually, I think I put 7. We like it really garlicky, and also depending on the size of your cloves. So I'm just going to chop these little guys up. And you want them chopped pretty finely. Okay, that looks about right. Just dump all that into here. Be careful, don't follow my example. The blade in here is sharp, so you really shouldn't be reaching inside. Okay, I'll scrape this part off there. Okay, let's see what else we need. Oh, 1 to 2 teaspoons of sugar. Now the sugar is really important because that's what's going to help this ferment. So it's not going to make it sweet. It's really not in your final product necessarily. It's just that fuel that's available so that this can ferment. Okay. Now the one thing that I am going to add that's a little bit different from when I was growing up and my mom was using this recipe is I like to put a little bit of fish sauce in there. And also really inexpensive. You can buy it at a lot of Asian markets. They might even have it like at your local grocery store. But I bought this gigantic thing for super cheap, and this will probably last me the rest of my life. So I'm just kind of shake it up, make sure it's ready to go. And I don't measure this. Actually, as you saw me measuring, it's very unusual for me. I usually don't do that at all. I just like throw everything in there. And as you get more comfortable with the recipe, you can do the same. So I just give it just a little sprinkling of that. There we go. And I like the umami flavor that this gives, the kimchi, and it just really brings out all the flavors. So we're just gonna mix this all up. Now, the other thing that I will probably add later, I just didn't have any in my cupboard, are sesame seeds. So I usually put those in here, but I just didn't have any today. But those are part of the recipe. They make it look really nice. It's a nice little addition to it. Okay. So you just kind of want to coat everything with this. And I just kind of, I use my hands a little bit, honestly, to kind of get this mixed up, because it can be hard to get it all kind of evenly coated. My hands are clean, don't worry, I just washed them. Okay, so now we want this to ferment, and we want the flavors all to meld, come together. You can see right now it is kind of red. I'll hold it a little closer, but it doesn't have like that signature like saucy pink look that kimchi usually has, but it will. You just got to give it some time. So we're going to put it in a jar, and this is not a fancy jar. I wanted all of this to be really straightforward stuff that you guys can find at just a grocery store. So no fancy fermenting crock or anything like that. we're just gonna put it in this jar. And I should probably tell you guys, this is just one Napa cabbage. So it doesn't make as much as you think. Those cabbages look huge in the store. This was a very large cabbage. But the problem is once it all starts to settle down and wilt, you lose a lot of that volume that you think you have at first, because you lose a bunch of water and this all starts to wilt down. Okay, so we're just gonna toss this into here. There we go. Let's get that all in there. Beautiful. Okay, we're gonna toss a lid on this. So now what I do is this is going to sit outside of the refrigerator at least overnight. Sometimes I'll let it sit longer. If I taste it tomorrow and I don't like the way the flavors have come together quite yet, I let it sit out a little bit longer, but usually overnight will be fine. And you know, it's kind of afternoonish here. So by tomorrow morning, this should be a little juicier and the flavor should really come together. So that's how I make my kimchi. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. And that's the end of this video, but I'll post pictures and the update on this so you guys can see how it looks the next day and how the progress goes. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching, and feel free to subscribe. If you have any questions, let me know. I love to answer them. I just love teaching people how to do what I do for my family. So thanks so much. Have a good afternoon.